The emperor has no clothes. The emperor has no clothes.
The total ban on the total initiative relative to what we're going to do with more Border Patrol and more asylum officers.
President Trump?
I really don't know what he said at the end of that sentence. I don't think he knows what he said either. Look,
that says it all. Welcome to Inside the Numbers with the People's Pundit. I am your host, Rich Barris, the People's Pundit. Waitress, I'd like to order a big slice of humble pie because, you look, everyone's wrong from time to time, right? And I was wrong. It's not my fault that the latest in nootropic drugs are not working on Joe Biden anymore. I suppose even modern science will never be able to trick the hand of God. And when it's your time, it's your time. So this is the takeaway from last night. This thing was completely rigged in Joe Biden's favor. They asked for everything. No audience, no more than 2 people allowed in the actual room at the time from each campaign. Interestingly enough, what you're going to see, interestingly enough, is who were the people in those rooms for each campaign. You had people who are on Team Trump that are typical people. Family was watching from another building. And then on Joe Biden's side, you have someone I think should be shamed by the entire country. And I'm talking about Joe Biden. I have said for years, since I saw Joe Biden coming out of the building in Delaware in the day before he was getting ready to announce that he was running in 2020. Because here's the thing, this has been going on that long. Joe Biden has been like this for that long. And last night, what happened, even though the polling's been clear, even though the polling has shown that the country was very concerned about his mental fitness, and yes, it was kind of like talked about, people joke about it all the time. People, kind of don't joke about it, like this isn't funny. But last night, it was on full display. Last night, the entire country was embarrassed. It's funny because I find myself listening to her more and more as time goes on. And I think she's a perfect example. It's not that I'm personally listening to her. I just think she's a great example of what it takes for you, like the perfect example of a transition from somebody who is your typical liberal, even though she pretended to be a conservative for years, she wasn't. And then as time goes on, if you're a rational person, if you use reason above all else, you can't watch this and not get to the same spot, eventually in his journey where like you're shifting your opinions. And I think that so many people have done that over the last 4 years or so. So I find myself listening to her to try to, see what I can glean from her own point of view. And I'm going to actually bring it up here in a second, but it's a couple of minutes, but I probably won't even get through it all. But she says something that I don't know how every household in America wasn't doing what her family was doing. That's what our family was doing. And I'm not going to say it yet. I want you to listen to it. But even if you want Trump to win, folks, you cannot simply be happy and, celebrate this. This man is the president of the United States. The media lied to the country, not for his entire tenure. The media has been lying to the country for a long time. But when it comes to this, what happened last night is that the country saw that the media, how bad the media was lying to them and had been lying to them and did lie to them this entire time. And then the issues for the first, God, Jake Tapper, man, he honestly, it was not as bad as it could have been. But Jake Tapper was jumping in constantly and saving him and constantly saying, hey, you have time left. You have time, because he couldn't even get through the time. How do you practice for these segments that you asked for? You asked for this allotted amount of time per answer. Mute the mics when someone else isn't, it's not their turn. Blah, 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 blah. He didn't even get to a place in his mind where he could say, this is a 60-second answer. This is a 90-second answer. He couldn't even do that because he was just totally lost. They wanted this, and it ended up, as Don Jr. said last night, I actually think their attempt to rig this helped my father. So that's why, I guess in the end, I'm wrong here. And we're going to play the clip because I just don't know. Even if you want Trump to win, folks, I don't know how you celebrate this. This is the result of a completely corrupt, late-stage Rome, corrupt kind of state that has this incestuous relationship with the vehicles of information in this country, right? Which is mainly, of course, what? Corporate media. And in the meantime, for the first 25 minutes of that debate, Trump got to tell the country what happened because of this. Look what they've done because look at him. And then towards the end of the debate, Trump just started going, what are we doing? Why are we having this debate? Look at him. Look at what he's done. And those were incredibly powerful moments. That one, though, is going to stick. That moment that I just played is going to be the moment that people are going to look back and they're going to say, that was the Trump-Biden 2024 presidential debate. I played you last week. Oh, and by the way, we're supposed to stream live last night, but I don't know what happened. We'll find out, but suspiciously looked like a DDoS attack to me. And the minute the debate is over, local servers, Rumble servers are all done and back up. So we were going to have like a watch party last night, and that sucks. We didn't do it, but here we are today to review it. But last week I played you the Ronald Reagan moment. Are you better off than you were 4 years ago? Everybody talks about that. That's the 1980 Carter debate. 1984 was Reagan turning to Mondale and saying, I refuse to make age an issue in this campaign. I am not going to bring up my opponent's youth and inexperience. And he turned the age issue around. Joe Biden was totally incapable of doing that because Joe Biden is gone. He's geriatric and he has dementia. He is a vessel, an old man, and he's been this way for years, and they've lied to you. The drugs aren't working anymore. I saw him come out of that building, guys, before I even play this clip. I saw him shuffle. I don't want to do it again. Do we have to really do it again? This was Joe Biden coming. This is what I get so mad at, because think about it. Marines are dead because of this lie. Marines are dead, withdrawing from Afghanistan. People holding on to airplanes as we abandon them and they fall out of the sky. Splat on the way down. Inflation is through the roof. Single moms can't pay their bills. New couples can't buy homes. They're priced out of the housing market. The debt is so big, there's no way to grow our way out of it anymore. It's over. There will have to be some kind of austerity if we're lucky. And on and on and on and on. How many people have been bled dry in Ukraine, which came up last night, by the way? Trump was like, come on, it never would have happened. Under you and Obama, he took Crimea and other parts of Eastern Europe. Under you, he took huge parts of Eastern Ukraine. And guess what? And I'm so glad he said this. He told the nation, Ukraine lost. There is no winning the war. It's over. And half the population, look at how much of their male population gone, not coming back, bled dry. And none of that would have happened under me. You know how much you took under me? 0. So I don't know if even if you're a Trump supporter, how you celebrate what happened last night. This is a true the emperor has no clothes moment. A true one. All right, so I'm going to bring this up. I want you to listen to, well, I'll take that off first, but I want you to listen to her because I really think, at least the first part of this, I think she got my sentiment. We'll see what you think. Here's Megyn Kelly.
In my view, it is over for Joe Biden. His presidential campaign came to an end tonight, whether he knows it or not. There will be meetings tonight, first thing tomorrow, amidst Democratic Party leaders about how to get him off the ticket, how to change in somebody else.
Not that easy.
There have to be.
We'll talk about it.
Already we're seeing some reaction come in from top Democrats who rarely criticize the president, suggesting he needs to have a serious look at this performance tonight and assess for himself whether he can go forward. That number will mount. There will be more and more. It was an unmitigated disaster. It was uncomfortable to watch. I sat with my family and friends, and for the first 25 minutes of the debate, we kept grabbing each other's arms. It was so jarring. He was so distant, so frail, so hard to comprehend, so unsteady. You honestly didn't know whether he was going to make it through the answer, never mind through the debate, much less through a second term. The contrast between Joe Biden and Donald Trump has never been more stark. Trump came out calm, cool, collected, in his own. He looked comfortable. Donald Trump Jr. tweeted out, I think actually the CNN format helped my dad. It helped him stay composed and presidential. I think he's right. The inability for him to interrupt Biden did wind up helping Trump. And he maintained his dignity for the most part. He was in control and strong for the entire time, unlike his opponent. I've never seen anything like that. I've never seen a politician at any level perform like Joe Biden performed tonight. And not only do I have questions about whether he will be his party's nominee, I have questions about whether he could possibly serve out his term. He's the president of the United States right now. That man.
Key part here.
Who couldn't spit out numbers or say trillion or billion correctly.
No, and let me just stop her. I'm sorry. I just interrupt her because this is the key part here, and then we'll stop it. But we created 15,000 jobs. I mean, the blunders, they're not blunders. He's gone. He's not capable of it. And honestly, I have questions. He really rifled through the hoax Rolodex last night. Every single hoax. The hoax he called Trump called soldiers losers, the hoax, the very fine people hoax, which he included in his launch video in 2020, which is not true. The Snopes just took down one of the hoaxes and literally like 4 days ago. And he goes, I'm not sure he knows. And Joe Biden has always been a serial liar and a serial plagiarist. Nothing about him has ever been true or real. And this fiction they created in 2020 and hid him in the basement so that voters wouldn't know the truth is an abomination to the electoral process. And we're in this position because of what they did. What she is saying is the only thing that anyone should care about right now at this point. This man is in the White House. If you needed any other evidence to prove that there is, in fact, a, whatever you want to call it, a deep state, an administrative state, a shadow government, and they run the country. The president is not in charge. There is a permanent, listen, the White House is an employer. There are permanent people there. Who comes and goes because you elect them is pretty damn irrelevant to them. And they do what they want. And when you get a strong independent figure like Trump to come in, all hell breaks loose, and we get what we saw during the Trump era. And that should have been the lesson of the Trump administration. This guy is in there right now. He is an empty suit, and the people around him are just getting to do whatever the hell they want, including his wife, who is not a doctor. If she was a doctor, she would know her husband should be like on the back porch in Sarasota right now, sipping on a cup of like Celestial Seasonings tea. He should not be in the White House because she always wanted to be first lady. The worst part about that last night is when Trump strolls off the stage like the gangster he is, the swagger, giving the finger to the camera, yo, see you later, and doing the little Trump shuffle off the stage. Well, she has to get up on the stage, grab her husband, and lead him off by his arm, his elbow, under his armpit and his elbow, and make sure he doesn't fall down. 4 very easy steps to get off the stage. Every American should hate the U.S. media today. Every American should absolutely hate corporate media today. This is dangerous. This isn't funny. This isn't some hoax. Trump's going to disband NATO. He's going to start World War III. There is a mentally disabled man who is 40 years a crook, 40 years of blackmail, 40 years of extortion in the White House. He can't think. He can't control his bowels. He can't put together a sentence. And that is in charge of the country.
And lied at every answer because he seemed confused.
Yeah, I don't think he lies, Megyn. I don't think he, last night, I'm telling you, yes, he is a liar. But I'm saying, I don't think that's the motivation for Joe Biden's lies. I don't think he knows what is going on. He doesn't know that's a hoax. The Atlantic story, Trump called troops losers. Look at his face last night when he said that. Look, in between the very clear images of Bell's palsy, by the way, that's Biden's resting face. Bell's palsy is Biden's resting face. In between those images, you can clearly see he thinks it's real. He's like, what? And when Trump's calling it a hoax, and he's like, confused. That's what they told him. So that's what he believes.
How is that our leader?
I don't know, Megyn.
How are the Democrats going to nominate
Too
that
late.
man? And
We're gonna
shame
talk
on you, Jill Biden.
Shame on
Jill Biden for allowing that.
Damn
I want answers from all these top Democrats who've been telling us how robust he is behind the scenes. That's who I want to hear from most. You lied. Did you not think this moment was going to come?
Joe Scarborough.
That we'd never see this? Why did you agree to put him out on the debate stage when you knew what the truth was?
Yeah.
And that we would eventually find it out for ourselves.
All right, let's end it there. Exactly. We would eventually find out for ourselves. And that's what happened last night. But were we going to eventually find out? I think nature took the course here. I don't think anybody had any. Listen, they could have got lucky. Thank you so much. They could have gotten lucky, folks. And the nootropics, which is what he's on, could have got him through 45 minutes at least. He melted down at the State of the Union as quick as he did, not because the drugs didn't work. They were working. You could see he came out at least somewhat sharp in the beginning. He fell apart when they started mocking him. And that's when it came apart, because that's what old people with dementia do. And he's always been a nasty prick. That's another lie. Joe Biden's never been a decent person. He's an asshole. He has always been an asshole. And it's not a secret. It's only a secret to you at home. The way that this was a secret. He's the strongest he's ever been. Joe Scarborough just said a few weeks ago. That's the best I've ever seen Joe Biden. The AP, NBC News, the New York Times, 4, 5, 6 days ago. The videos that you see with Joe Biden looking mentally impaired are deep fakes. They're deceptively edited. Man, don't tell me these people are not the enemy of the country. Look what they did. The media helped Roosevelt hide his condition from the American public during World War II. Roosevelt was physically disabled. He was not mentally disabled. Every single mother who can't afford diapers, every father who's struggling to have dignity right now and support his family, Every soldier who finds himself in a shitty position, in the suck, in a place he doesn't want to be and shouldn't be, right? Every single person who can't find a job because there are no domestic jobs being created, which was another lie last night. This is all their fault. Be angry at them. Be very angry at them. This is all on them. They lied to you. All because there's a guy who won't play by the rules. Love him or hate him. Their problem with Trump is not a problem of issues. Their problem with Trump is not a problem that has to deal with his, they don't like his mannerisms and he's crass and he doesn't fit in, but that's fine because he did fit in their world when he was stuffing their pockets. They ignored how crass he was when he was stuffing their pockets with campaign donations, when he was building skyscrapers to make them look good, when he was fixing ice skating rinks that they failed to repair, when he was keeping people in New York, when people were terrified after 9/11, when they couldn't do it. So don't even give me that shit. Their problem with Trump is that he won't play by their rules. He doesn't need K Street. He doesn't like the military-industrial complex. And if there's anyone left in this country who doesn't see that after last night, I submit you are hopeless. You are a fanatic. You could disagree with him by issues, but don't you dare sit there and pretend like you have the moral high ground voting for a guy like this because Donald Trump's mannerisms you don't like. I'm sorry. You put us all in danger. All of our future is in danger. There's a freaking war in Eastern Europe because of you. There are countless dead people in Israel because of you. This is all on you. You all have blood-soaked hands. Blood-soaked hands. And your children's future and your grandchildren's future are gonna suffer. All because you couldn't see it. And it's time somebody said that out loud. I'm not a voter shamer, and I don't even think it's their fault. That's why I'm saying, hate the game, man. Hate the game. And the media is part of that game. Look at these world-class pieces of shit who, like I said, we ran the clip on this very show after the State of the Union, covered for Joe Biden, who couldn't speak names, numbers. It was mildly better than last night. Let's get real. For like maybe 5 to 8 minutes, he sounded okay. And then for the rest of an hour speech, it was an absolute disaster. And they knew that. And they went on their morning shows anyway, and they said how great he looked, how sharp he was. This is the best I've ever seen him. Well, now because there's just no way to hide it. There's no way to hide it anymore. The meltdowns ensue. These people have absolutely no credibility, no character, don't deserve an ounce of your respect. And for everything that's wrong in your life right now that is affected by government policy, they deserve every single bit of your ire and anger because that is all on them.
Okay, hold on a second. That I agree with everything you said, except for the last part of it. Everybody calm down, and I'll tell you why. I mean, it's fine to not spin what happened last night, and we're not going to.
But by the way,
he had
Mika,
a terrible
by the way,
night.
Mika, everybody's calm here.
No,
you're the
but-
only one raising your voice.
No,
Everybody is.
Does it strike anybody else? Does Joe Scarborough, does he scream red rum, wife abuser to anybody else? Or is it just me? You ever hear how he talks to his wife sometimes when like things go badly for them? I don't talk to, if I talk to Laura the way Joe Scarborough talks to me, she'd slap shit at me and that'd be the end of it. All right. And first of all, you know why I wouldn't do that? Why? Because I know my wife would not let me be embarrassed, degraded, and just castrated as a man like Jill Biden is allowing her husband to be, just so she could be the first lady of the United States. Legitimately or not. That's another thing. Let's call a spade a spade. He just screams beater to me. Like I won't be shocked if in like 5 years there's like a 911 call. You feel what I'm saying? Like I really wouldn't.
Calm here.
But again, it's the let's just immediately pull this. Let's end this. Let's find someone else.
That's not what Mike said.
That attitude toward this is what I am saying slow down on, because, again, there's no spinning it, but let's be balanced. Let's, for once, show some balance in a media world that is so shrill with imbalance that we've become inured to the difference between these two candidates. So let's put it this way. Gene Robinson, I'll go to you.
Well, wait. I just have to stop you. First of all, we always show balance.
I was just going to say, let's stop. No, you don't. You show balance. You're kidding, right? Is this, I mean, did they even think anyone takes them seriously anymore? We always show balance. There isn't a single Trump voice on that show. And by the way, it's not even a Trump voice. It's a voice of, like, I don't know, according to Quinnipiac, 52% of the American public. All right, because the polls, for those of you who did not see them going into this debate, Quinnipiac had Trump up between 2 and 5, and the New York Times had Trump up 4 and 5. This is not actually a close race. All right. I hate to say it, the piece of shit Nate Silver is actually right. It's not that close of a race. This race is going to run away from Joe Biden after last night. There's no other prediction you could make here. This race is over, I think. All right, and we're going to talk about how can they replace Biden because of that. It is not that simple. I'm just going to give you a little foreshadowing what everyone's talking about this morning. Even what Megyn Kelly said, I understand where she's coming from because she's thinking of it as like a logical person. But if you don't understand the rules, if you don't understand the rules for the party, state laws, right, and then the optics and logistics of it, it's not that easy. They would have to upend the entire system to replace Joe Biden. They would. And maybe they'll do that. I don't, it's very difficult. And I will explain it to you. And even if they did, they may get kicked. They may get beaten even worse than if they were not to replace Joe Biden. I'm serious. And we'll get there in a minute. But this is like we've always been fair. She just gave she's the Freudian slipper of all Freudian slippers on cable news. This woman once admitted in 2016 that she can't stand Donald Trump's Twitter account, and the media can't stand Donald Trump's Twitter account because he can circumvent the voters. He has circumvent the media and get directly to the voters. He has too many followers, and it is our job to, quote, filter. That is the word Mika herself used, to filter the information that the public receives. All right. Whoa. She is the Freudian slipper of all Freudian slippers in this industry. And she just said, again, the truth. For once, let's tell it how it is. Let's be fair. Let's be balanced. And Joe, come on. All those calls to Bill O'Reilly's people, you know it. You're not fair and balanced. You know you're not. Get the hell out of here.
We are, yeah.
Secondly, nobody's panicking. I said these were questions that Democrats and Joe Biden needed to ask themselves. And Mike said he missed one pitch down the middle after another and wasn't up to it last night.
Right, okay.
He said
wasn't up to it last night.
He said last night.
Oh, please.
So I will say that it's not panic. I mean, it's not being panicked. To understand what's at stake and understand the window is closing very quickly. And
the window closed when you lied to the public and duped hundreds of millions of people into voting for Joe Biden in the primary against Dean Phillips, Marianne Williamson. You wouldn't let Robert Kennedy even compete. And now you want to tell all those people that their vote doesn't matter? You have any idea how badly they would be beat in November if they did that? Not to mention leapfrog, the first female vice president. Leapfrog, the first non-white vice president. I dare you. I dare you to upend the system and replace Joe Biden. I dare you. Joe Biden consistently, even I don't think he's going to pull that well now, but you know what? Maybe we'll do this. Maybe in our upcoming poll, we'll put other candidates in there and see if, again, they poll any better, but they're not going to. This debacle is going to bleed over onto them. It will. Because you're going to have people in on the Democratic side. We're going to say, you know, I voted for him. I voted for him. He's still better than Trump. There are going to be those people. They're going to be out there. You take him away, you insult those people. You did this. You dug your own grave. You're headed to the grave like Joe Biden. That's what you're doing. And rapidly. And you did it yourself. That's what lies do. Get you in trouble. Finish the rest of the clip.
And if last night did not reveal that to you and other Democrats, then it needs to be revealed pretty soon.
What last night revealed is that you lied your ass off after the State of the Union. You have been lying for years. That's what it revealed. It's not the voters' fault that you're a liar. Now, we're all responsible for our own views. So if they voted for the guy, even though he's this way, I mean, I suppose that is absolutely on them. But it's hard when you're living in the construct that they designed and you're trying to pay your bills and you're trying to get your kids ready for, you know, off to college, and you're trying to make ends meet, and you're trying to pay the mortgage, and you're trying to make sure the car's running okay. You got gas in your tank. You can get back and forth to work. You know, I mean, frankly, folks, this is why the system wasn't designed this way in the beginning. This is why the system didn't vest all power in one part of the contract, which is, of course, and I hate to say it, but at this point, the rent seekers who influence what you see before you vote, they have all of the influence because they vested all the power in your vote. It wasn't always like that. Rent seekers in K Street have no power over your state legislatures. They were the ones who were supposed to be doing a lot of this work for you while you did what you had to do. And you voted for your House of Representatives, and they dealt with what they had to deal with. And power was vested with them and vested in the legislature. We changed the system, and we made it very, very easy for them to obscure facts and make everything very convoluted, to hide that a president is mentally gone. 2 generations before us looked at Joe Biden even before his decline and found him wanting. They found him to be a serial liar and a serial plagiarist and somebody who is disqualified from the serving in the office of the president. They built a new construct, one in which Joe Biden was a different man. And they sold it to people. Cost a lot of money, but they did it. And it made it easier. A crisis. Because that's the crisis in Leviathan. COVID, you're scared, right? You're scared. Things are uncertain. They rocked the boat for 4 years. It's a crisis every day. You just wanted it to end. So a lot of people voted to end it. And now last night, what they saw was the source of all this, the source of all their problems, and what is really going on. Folks, think about all the times the press secretary goes to the microphone and amid questions from the White House press corps about this man's cognitive ability and cognitive decline, lack of ability, think about how many times this woman said, oh, he's in the best shape. He's so sharp. He's engaged. Does anybody seriously believe after last night that that man is engaged in the day-to-day operations of running the country? I don't think he can wipe his own ass anymore. I'm sorry. I'm not kidding. Like, I'm not making jokes here. He doesn't know the difference between systems of measurement, and it's like, you know, all of those things that go when your mind goes at old age. And let's cut the crap. The very first day the man took the office of the presidency, The audio was clear. They're walking over executive orders. He has no idea what he's signing. That was a nice hot mic moment that foreshadowed all of this. What is this thing? Just sign it. I'll tell you about it later. Okay. Wow. Wow. All right. This is one of the better, more blunt takes, I believe. Actually, there's two, and I'll just play them back to back. But here's one of the blunter ones.
And this has been, quite frankly, a car accident in slow motion that we've seen over and building and questioning it. And, you know, as has been pointed out, Joe Biden sought this debate at this remarkably early time because he knew he was losing and he needed to change the narrative.
Yeah.
And he did change the narrative. He sunk his campaign tonight.
I don't know if my ears are like going or something. Maybe I need to go see the doctor, but I think Chris Wallace was being honest for once. I don't know if my ears are deceiving me. I think this campaign's over. I'm not trying to give anybody complacency. It's just there is no keeping up with the charade anymore. The polls are so bad post this debate. I don't even know what to say. There's so much content to get through today. I'm so pissed that things didn't. Listen. I don't know. I don't know what's going on over there. I'm glad you guys hopped on over to Rumble or YouTube. Very clearly from the view numbers, there are a lot of you, and you made the jump. Thank you for that. If you're on locals, I will find out what in the Sam hell is going on. But here's a great comparison. This is the CNN snap poll. They are never good for Republicans historically. They never have been. Here you can actually see the historical comparison, and there's a few of them, so bear with me while we go through them. Okay. Here is who won the debate. This is among CNN debate watchers. If you look at the first debate from 2020, 60%, remember the screaming match? 60% believed that Joe Biden won that debate. 28% believed that Donald Trump won that debate. And we polled it ourselves. And actually, we got very different numbers. So I think that's worth noting. Some had it closer, but this is CNN. Let's just stick with the CNN poll. In the second debate, it was closer, but 53% said Joe Biden won it and 39% said Donald Trump won it. Actually, we should call that the de facto second debate because, of course, the corrupt Commission on Presidential Debates canceled what is traditionally the second debate and foreign policy debate with citing some bogus excuse about plexiglass and COVID because it's all B. Again, part of the cover-up, BS cover-up. Maybe Biden wasn't feeling well that day, but it didn't matter. The bottom line is the second debate is traditionally the foreign policy debate, and it is also the comeback debate for the incumbent. What do I mean? Incumbents need to kick the dust off their candidate shoes. They get a little bit complacent. They're the commander in chief, and they don't go out there with the same vigor that a challenger will go out there with. And it's easy to criticize somebody who's in the job when you're not doing it and you've never done it or whatever it may be. Anyway, and then the second debate rolls around, and that is a real problem for the challenger because he is not the commander-in-chief. And the commander-in-chief will go out there and just look bigger than the challenger. And they have a better grasp, a knowledge of the issues because they're dealing with them. And then in the case of Trump v. Biden, the record was really bad. Joe Biden, we should not at all, even if Joe Biden wasn't cognitively absent, we all should not be surprised by the failure of his presidency on the foreign policy front. Trump obliterated him last night on that because Joe Biden's been wrong about everything since he's been in Washington, D.C. Every single major foreign policy issue, as his own defense secretary said, he was wrong on. He also told Barack Obama not to kill Osama bin Laden. He was the only one who did not give the green light for that operation when Obama went around the room. Hillary Clinton did. Hillary Clinton said, red team go, baby. Even Hillary Clinton is better than Joe Biden on foreign policy, and she is the killer of nations. Ask Muammar Gaddafi. Oops, that's right. Can't do it. He dead. And she's better. He also said that Donald Trump killing Qasem Soleimani was reckless and would start a war between the Palestinians and the Israelis. That did not happen. The general that was responsible for many, many deaths and maims at the hands of IUDs in the side of the road and everywhere else in Iraq, because that was the Quds Force, and he was the commander of the Quds Force. They funded it, trained people to do it. Was dead, and that we took him off the table. Trump and the military took him off the table. And Joe Biden said that would start a war. It was reckless, blah, blah, blah. That didn't happen. He's gone. And there was no war. There were, however, the Abraham Accords, which isolated the Palestinian radicals, even in the Arab world, and started to normalize relations between Arab countries and Israel. And that's what Donald Trump passed off to Joe Biden. That's all down the shitter now. And now there is a war in the Middle East, just like there's a war in Eastern Europe. And that all, let alone all the other things that he screwed up on in his career. Yeah, sure, let's vote for the war in Iraq, but we're not going to vote to supply the troops. Let's vote for the war in Iraq, but no, we're not going to reform the VA and get those guys care. So, we'll send them off to war, but we're not going to take care of them. That was his record. They didn't want that on display. So now, look, this is what you get because of these lies. I mean, these lies. That is the lesson here. And who the hell are these 33%? You might ask. That's statistics, folks, and that's the country we live in. Believe me, there would probably be 15 to 25% of Republicans who would say the same if the roles are reversed. We're a divided nation because they did this to us. And that's just the way it is. Not everybody is going to be able to exhibit the ability to use their reason over their emotion. All right. And then, of course, you have this, which is the end all be all. 57% after that debate say that they have no confidence in Joe Biden's ability to lead the country. 57%. I don't know how you get to 50 plus 1 votes like that. I just don't. I don't think you do. I don't think you do. All right. You know what? I want to just do one more thing. There's just so much. It's coming up on the top of the hour already. And awesome. Yeah. Coming up on the top of the hour, and I may have to make some room here. So what I want to do is play something, because I just want to say this to Republicans out there who are giddy today. You're still stupid. All right. I'm talking about the party, of course, not the voters. You're still stupid. Your candidates don't know how to message, and don't celebrate too early, because this may just be a Joe Biden problem. Donald Trump is performing far ahead, far stronger than typical Republican candidates, and certainly Republican candidates in Senate races and battleground states. They would need to not only control the U.S. Senate, but have enough votes where they don't have to bring in the vice president to break the tie every 2 seconds. They could get a majority that is far beyond that situation. And they need that if they want to get things done, because Democrats, unlike them, know how to fight, and they will grind the process to a halt if they don't do that. So I want to take the moment to say this. Don't think. Just stop thinking. You don't even have to hire your political consultants anymore. I really don't think you need them. Just shut up and repeat what Donald Trump says. That's my advice to you, especially on the issue of abortion. Don't try to work this one out. Every time you guys try to think, it goes badly. Apparently, you just don't get it. So just instead, shut up and regurgitate everything the former president says, from abortion to inflation to foreign policy. Just follow his lead. This is the exchange on abortion. And if I thought, I want to say, if I thought he did go with Hillary Clinton on it, and he did, and he just took the issue immediately off the table in the way he handled Hillary Clinton. It's hard to do that again. It's hard to repeat that again because your opponent knows how you handled Hillary Clinton. So they should be expecting it. They should be expecting it. And they should be prepared. This time, I think Trump did it in a way with the expectation that he's got to do it a little bit differently this time. Get across and convey the same message, but he's got to do it a little differently. And part of that was the forum. They're muting the mics. Trump kind of talked over Hillary when he did it. He was just like, "You're such a nasty woman. You would rip babies out of the womb." Ugh. But he didn't let her finish. And this time he had to let Joe Biden go back and forth. So he had to be ready for when Joe Biden does what Joe Biden does best, which is lie and fabricate things and just pull things out of his ass, like making shit up like crazy. And he did, and it's masterful. And I'm going to play this because you guys know, you've been following us a while. If you have, you've seen the polling. Nobody has polled the issue of abortion in detail, though, as much as we have over the years. Nobody. I've not seen any other poll who's done. And I know that Robert Cahaley has done some for actual clients for state parties. I know that because they did one for another neighboring state. And I heard about what they were doing. Then we talked. So I know he did some in-depth polling on this, but we've been doing that level, that granular level for years. Even pro-choice voters, where do they draw the line, right? And then is there any relationship between age and gender, or age or gender, or age and gender, right? So all this comes into play. And you could not tailor, if you knew that data, you could not have made a better exchange, and especially given the rules of that debate. So here it is. I want to play it. It's important. And Republicans, you don't need to ask Jeff Rowe how to handle this. He doesn't know. All right. Just follow the president.
We get the total ban on the total initiative relative to what we can do with more border patrol and more asylum.
Oh, wait.
I really don't know what he's.
Oh, wait, I really don't know what he said. Oh, God. That's the wrong one. Here we go. I had a Biden moment. Pardon me.
Terminate a pregnancy.
I support Roe v. Wade, which had 3 trimesters. The first time is between the woman and the doctor. Second.
Listen, I support Roe v. Wade. There's 3 trimesters. I don't know.
Time is between the doctor and an extreme situation. The third time is between the doctor, between the woman and the state. The idea that the politicians.
What is he talking about? Does do you know what that means? Does anyone, chat? If you know, enlighten me. What is he talking about, chat? The first time is between a woman and an extreme situation. What is it? What the hell does that mean? This I don't even know what he's trying to say. I think he's trying to talk about trimesters and then what's allowed and what's not. But I'll be damned. I'm not going to try to crawl into Joe Biden's head anymore because, there's nothing in there. It's empty space.
The founders wanted the politicians to be the ones making decisions about women.
I just want to also stop. I'll go back if I'm cutting it off and you're not hearing a coherent thought. It's not coherent anyway. Let's be clear. But the idea that the founding fathers would have supported Roe v. Wade is absolutely unbelievable. These people would have viewed abortion as murder. They were Quakers and Congregationists, the descendants of Puritans, Anglican church followers, the Church of England. They never would have supported a right to have an abortion, the right to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. You kind of kill the other two when you take the first one away. This is unbelievable to argue that 18th century philosophers and political leaders would have supported Roe v. Wade. And Adams, even the damn architect of Roe v. Wade, knows that the law was bull. Even he argued for years, even though, of course, he defended or he attacked the decision to overturn it. He, for years, wrote about how that the decision was not based in law, though it was, in his mind, the right decision. In other words, it's not legal, but I support it, so that's it. That's what that means. And no matter if he's got a law degree or not, it doesn't, it doesn't make it any more sophisticated as an argument. That's what he was saying for years. And Adams, meticulously dissecting the common law, somehow would support this decision when there, of course, is no precedent, no common law to support it. They fabricated a right out of whole cloth. The idea that Adams would have gone along with that is just insane. And of course, Jefferson and the rest, they were more concerned about natural law. And you are a violator of natural law when you kill a baby. You have no right to take a human life. Period. That is for God to decide, not you. Just unbelievable ignorance. Same things like the Second Amendment. Oh, well, they didn't say you could have cannons. They had them. Wealthy families, even as far far connected from the Constitution as the Civil War in the mid-19th centuries, owned ironclads because they were wealthy and wanted them. He's an idiot, but he's always been an idiot. He was stupid in college. He graduated at the bottom of his class. He's a dumbass.
Women's health is ridiculous. That's the last. No politician should be making that decision. A doctor should be making those decisions. That's how it should be run. That's what you're going to do. And if I'm elected, I'm going to restore Roe v. Wade.
So that means he can take.
Whoa. If I'm elected, I'm going to restore Roe v. Wade. Bruh. Look at the Bell's palsy resting face, by the way. Look at the Bell's palsy resting face. Notice the droop in what is his left corner of his mouth. That's Bell's palsy, folks. I'm sorry. It is. Anyway. But anyway, what do you mean if you're elected? You're in the office right now. You mean if I'm reelected, I'm going to pack the Supreme Court with a bunch of left-wing nutcases who won't care at all about the sanctity of precedent, and they will overturn the overturning. That's what he means.
The life of the baby in the 9th month and even after birth, because some states, Democrat run, take it after birth. Again, the former governor of Virginia, put the baby down, then we decide what to do with it. So he's willing.
And what Trump is referring to, which I'm sure most of you know, is Ralph Northam, of course, the former governor of Virginia, on a radio program talking about the issue of abortion and the Democratic position and his position. And he basically said that even when the baby is born, if the mother doesn't want it, they will terminate the baby after birth. It was the most horrific example of the Democrat position on abortion, and no limits. And it was the most eccentric. It was the Dr. Kermit Gosnell position on abortion. And for those who don't know who I'm talking about, it was talk about horrific. It's the stuff of nightmares and horror movies. He was conducting pregnancies, pulling out babies, viable human life, inserting what essentially are large scissors in the back of the baby's neck and severing the spine. Did that make you uncomfortable? That is the reality of the Democratic position of no limits on abortion. And back then, the state of Pennsylvania prosecuted him, and he went to jail. It was awful. And the gruesome realities of the abortion industry came into full light for a tiny moment in time. And that's what Trump is bringing up right now. And Ralph Northam, fast forward 4 years, and Ralph Northam feels perfectly comfortable going on a radio show because of how far the Democratic position moved. He feels perfectly comfortable going on the radio show and saying, that's up to the mother. That's up to the doctor. The baby is breathing. I'm talking about a viable human birth. They support Kermit Gosnoling that shit.
To, as we say, rip the baby out of the womb in the 9th month and kill the baby. Nobody wants that to happen, Democrat or Republican. Nobody wants it to happen.
That is simply not true. The Roe v. Wade does not provide for that. That's not the circumstance. Only if a woman's life is in danger, she's going to die. That's the only circumstance in which that can happen. But we are not.
That's not true. Oh, no.
Nobody wants it to happen.
That is simply not true.
Wait.
The Roe v. Wade does not provide for that. That's not the circumstance. Only if a woman's life is in danger, she's going to die.
That's not true. There is, under Roe v. Wade and the challenges that were brought before different courts, and then, of course, including the prior Supreme Courts that had punted on the issue, it was no limit abortion. And Trump will push that and test that. He'll let him make a statement, and then this is how every single Republican should handle what Joe Biden is saying right now, because at least he got this somewhat coherent and correct as the textbook Democratic answer. Oh, and I also just want to point out real quick, I don't have the clip, but you might have noticed last night, the only thing that Biden seemed well versed in at all were the details of the cases against Trump. Don't you find that a little bit remarkable, noteworthy? The guy is clueless about everything, but he knows about the details of Trump's cases? Of course, because he is in fact directing them. His office is directing them. His staff is directing them. That those are, doesn't matter whether it's Alvin Bragg coming from the state, his number 3 from the Justice Department, left DOJ, a very lucrative, a very prestigious position at the DOJ to go work under fat Alvin Bragg. Nobody does that. Unless, of course, the White House said, go do it. And there'll be a nice pot of gold at the end of the rainbow for you. Which is, of course, what it was. Of course. And Biden seems to be well-versed in only the details of Trump's cases because he's hanging his hat on all of that and knows nothing about anything else. Anyway.
That's the only circumstance in which that can happen.
False.
But we are not for late-term abortion, period. Period.
Under Roe v. Wade, you have late-term abortion. You can do whatever you want, depending on the state. You can do whatever you want. We don't think that's a good thing. We think it's a radical thing. We think the Democrats are the radicals, not the Republicans.
For 51 years, that was the law.
All right. And we can cut it off here. He goes on 51 years, that was the law. And then he goes on to say all the experts believed, all the experts supported that decision. Of course, that is absolutely not true. All right. But, it is what it is. That's the textbook answer for any Republican on abortion. And he threaded the needle perfectly. And that's also why, let's just go back in time real quick. Trump during the primary was not going to let his opponents push him to the right just to win the Iowa caucuses, which he won overwhelmingly without doing that. Why? Because the nature of even evangelical position has changed. All right. And the nature of an evangelical Christian in Iowa has changed. Like Bob Vander Plaats does not represent them anymore. He is the old version of the evangelical community. There are cultural evangelicals that don't trust or support the institution of the evangelical institutions like Bob Vander Plaats and others. They don't hold those positions the way that he does anymore. So Trump was threading the needle during the primary, and it allowed him to do what he did last night. And that is the only viable position in a national election. You cannot win the state of Michigan running the way Ron DeSantis ran. You cannot win the state of Michigan running the way Ted Cruz ran his campaign. You can't win the Rust Belt at all. Iowa, which they care so much about because it's a caucus, it's not the electorate, suddenly becomes competitive when you hold that position. Trump's position is the correct position. And over time, if Republicans adopt it, and then little by little, for 40 years, folks, they were pushing with entertainment, with culture, with politics, with everything, art, music, everything. They were pushing the abortion culture on the country. It's going to take time to unwind that. Just because the court overturned Roe v. Wade does not mean that people are suddenly going to adopt one of the more purest forms of the position that is held by Republicans. You need to work them over to that position the way that Democrats worked over people to their position. And that will take time. The consensus, obviously is not the heartbeat, even though when you ask people that, it's obviously much stronger, supported much more strongly than you would think, judging by the media and judging by the amendment votes we've seen in different states. However, the safe consensus is late-term abortion, and then you work your way from there. When you ask pro-choice voters about late-term abortion, you get a majority that oppose late-term abortion, right? And by the way, more women than men. A liberal male is the most ardent supporter of unfettered abortion in this country. Women are less supportive than men, and they will bail on pro-choicers if they advocate for no limits late-term abortion. You take that territory first, and then you move into like the Pain Protection Act, depending on which version of the bill you're talking about, 20, 25 weeks, and you talk about that. And the new science is not kind to the abortion industry, but it will take time. And then eventually you get to where you want to be. But it's not, that was never going to happen overnight. And Republicans overstepped. They got too gung-ho. The pro-life movement has had nothing to do. Now that Roe v. Wade is overturned, they're just like figuring out their place in the system, and it caused a lot of losses. It caused a lot of unnecessary losses in Ohio and other states, where again, the word is unnecessary. There was a better way to do it. And frankly, with some of those states, I don't know why the hell you would even hire Robert and I. Well, what the hell was the point? You weren't going to listen anyway. You listened to the Lila Rose pro-life lobby instead of the data. And now look at you. Get your ass kicked. All right, so that is the correct answer. And don't even try to think for yourselves anymore. Don't. Just stop. Don't even try to think for yourselves. Just listen to the president, do what he says, and mimic him, and that'll be it. All right. It's 1:05. We got to take a break. Yeah, we do. For those, I don't know. I will get on them and find out what in the Sam hell is happening with locals. I have no idea. I don't know. But we'll figure it out. There was, we got to get to the Supreme Court decision too. Holy moly, we got to get to this decision. Huge decision that is a major victory. I got to tell you, the last 48 hours, like a page turning 48-hour period. You have this debate, and now you just had the decision by the Supreme Court, which we'll talk about more. It's a major win for Trump and the J6ers, but also it's like the age of Chevron is dead. So it's more than just about them. The age of Chevron is dead, and we'll get more into it. But man, a lot of charges against Trump, gone. J6ers, gone. It's over. The interpretation by the government is incorrect. The Supreme Court ruled today. So we'll get there. It's just a huge, huge deal. I mean, some of these, the talking points are just falling away one after the other. And you have the performance you have last night. I just don't see we're going into July. It's June 28th. It's a wrap, folks. I'm telling you. But let's take a real quick break. And when we come back, I can't wait I can't wait for this next segment. All right. But let's have a word from our sponsors, shall we? Look, I think Trump laid it out fairly well last night. A lot of issues in the world, a lot of problems. And the economy is, of course, at the top of that list. Debt is at the top of that list. Making sure you're protected is got to be at the top of that list. And so it's no surprise that there are people looking for alternative places to invest their money. Stocks can be unpredictable. And let's face it, inflation impacts currency inversely. That's why I want to talk to you about one of our sponsors, Freedom Gold USA. If you've ever thought about investing in gold or silver, or if you're just interested in diversifying your investment portfolio, Freedom Gold USA is definitely the company that you should check out. And what I like about them is that they're all about helping you make smart decisions, and they want you to have the information that makes you confident, give you the information you need to make sure that you are protected and feel secure when you make that commitment in precious metals. And they'll give you the information you need to make confident decisions without pressure, no hard sell. Also, what's different about Freedom Gold USA, they'll guarantee competitive pricing and some of the best quality and purity gold and silver that you can find. You know what you're getting, a solid deal, especially if you are a viewer of the show, which I will tell you about in a second. You don't have to worry about extra fees. They offer free shipping and insurance on all orders. And plus, you might even get some free silver on qualifying purchases. They'll give you $500 in credit towards opening a new gold or silver IRA. That's a nice bonus. And we had Brian on the show last week. He dropped that deal for you guys, and I would strongly suggest you give them a call and ask them about it some more. All right, so they've lowered the requirement. Most people, most of these companies you hear about, it's like a 50 grand commitment. That's the only way you're going to qualify to even get in. Maybe some of them are 20K, right? So even if Freedom Gold, of course, the minimum commitment is usually 5,000. For People's Pundit, we're talking about a couple $100. So if you're a viewer of the show, you can get in and start something over there for just a couple $100. And then they're going to throw you into a pool. There'll be a raffle, and you will win free gold, silver. I kid you not. So I'm not in the raffle, but I sure took advantage of it. Took advantage of the deal, and you should too. Here's the best part. Dealing with Freedom Gold, of course, is simple and hassle-free. I wanted to put a face to the company. You saw him yourself, a great advocate. You won't get any pushy sales tactics when you call Brian and his team. They're all about helping you reach your financial goals in a way that works for you. So if you want to learn more, it's on the screen. I would recommend giving Freedom Gold a call. Use that number, though. Make sure, because that's how you're going to get that deal. 888-279-3592. 888-279-3592. Tell them you are a viewer of the People's Pundit, and they will take great care of you. All right. Also, alternatively, you can go to the website, freedomgoldusa.com/rich. freedomgoldusa.com/rich. Go there. Check out the special deals. See what offers you may qualify for. Again, the number 888-279-3592, or visit freedomgoldusa.com/rich. I would not wait. Give them a call. Secure your financial future. Learn how to protect, learn how to get protected. And I'm not sure how long that deal is going to last. All right. So I would absolutely jump on that sooner rather than later. I didn't need to tell you. I kind of just asked him last minute, and I just want to bring him on because, we had this conversation the day before the debate, and there's something else I'm dying to talk to him about and bring up. My buddy Sean Parnell. Thanks, bro, for coming by on such late notice. So,
man, you're so good. You're so good. You come on my show every freaking week, man. So anytime you ask, I will always try to be there for you, my friend.
I dropped that last minute on you, and I'm glad it worked, because I got to tell you, I open up the show saying, and listen, of course, I'm going to do it a caveat, but look, not everyone's wrong from time to time, and I have to eat a big old slice of humble pie here, of course, but it's not my fault that the nootropic drugs are no longer working, so I really thought that I still think that it was a risk, and it was an unnecessary risk. All right. I still believe that doing this debate, it was an unnecessary risk. It's just that the worst happened to Joe Biden. The worst happened. It didn't work. The drugs didn't work. The preps didn't work. And it fell apart in front of everyone. This is the emperor has no clothes moment times a million. This was worst case scenario. What do you think, Sean? What were your thoughts, man?
First of all, I watched this debate last night with Melanie. We sat on the couch together, and we had, it's fair to say, and we had a lot of anxiety for Trump, because we knew that he was walking into what was a hostile environment. I talked yesterday on the show that if you're, a military person, which I know you are, and you're operating in combat, and the risks of the mission, there are ways in which you can weaponize those risks against your enemies. And in the case of politics, you can weaponize them against your political enemies. And what was interesting, as rigged as the debate format was, it actually exposed a level of Biden brain rot that up until this point, I wasn't sure was possible. Because think about it, even with all the shots in the ass, I mean, somebody commented in the live chat on my show, Rich, that Biden's going to be higher than a giraffe's ass. And he said this right as I was going.
Oh my God.
I started laughing so hard. But even when he's stoned out of his gourd, he's still not Biden, the Biden that was debating Paul Ryan back in what 2012.
Yep.
Honestly, take a minute Or how about this? Maybe not even a debate that far. Maybe just him debating in 2020. Go watch those debates and go watch him today. It's not the same person. And so, look, the Lazarus pit can only work so many miracles before it just isn't effective anymore. And, you know, and let me also say this, Rich. Let me just ask you a question. I know this is your show, but
no, dude, go ahead.
Yeah.
I mean, did you expect him to be shrewd and on point? I mean, you and I didn't. We talk about this every single week. But what's crazy to me is the media, they're not just liars, and the Democrats aren't just liars. They're anti-truth. They didn't say, Rich, they didn't say, oh, you know, hey, look, Biden, yeah, he's in his 80s. He lost a step, clearly, but he still has it, right? No, they didn't say that. They said, this is the best version of Biden ever. The hardest part about working for Joe Biden is preparing for meetings because he's sharp. He's intellectually probing. My ass. What a freak. These people have all been exposed. I mean, you and I know this, but my God, Rich, most people don't pay attention to politics like we do. They're watching that debate, and these people, imagine the panic that is set in across what, 35% of America, 40% of America that had the scales removed from their eyes permanently yesterday. It is impossible to encapsulate how much damage has been done, not just to Biden and his campaign, but also to these media loser, disgusting hacks and these Democrat politicians who lied to them forever. I mean, my God, last night was actually the last 24 hours have just been one massive W for our country after the next. Unbelievable 24 hours, man.
I'm telling you, like I said in the beginning of the show, like that's the damage. That's the real damage here, is that last night they couldn't hide anymore. And Sean, 4 days ago, the AP, the NBC News, the New York Times were writing articles saying that the videos we're seeing that suggest Joe Biden is cognitively declining are deep fakes, are deceptively edited, right? They have done so much damage. That's why I told, and normally I'm not trying to rabble rouse here, but I told the viewers in the first part of the show that they should be angry with these people. This is not like, oh, you know, they're biased. They lied to this country, and they have been on a level that is unforgivable and needs to be punished. This needs to be, they need to set an example out of them. So in 2020, Sean, I watched him come out of that building in Delaware in, what I'm trying to remember the town, starts with a W. Yes, Wilmington. Thank you. In Wilmington, and I'm on the phone with Laura, and I'm watching him come out, and they kind of sneak him out of the side door where there's a ramp, right? So there's, at that time already, you had people one on each side of him holding his arm, and he's doing the geriatric shuffle coming down this, ramp. And I said to Laura, I don't know how they're going to hide this. He can't win this election like this. And they did. And they hit him. They used COVID. They used a crisis, and they hid and they lied to the country. This has been going on for a long time. It's just, I guess it's so bad now the drugs aren't working. And, and the preparation is impossible. It's just nothing's. So last night, people were watching. They're busy. They're seeing clips and memes people are putting up. And of course it's working. Those are absolutely working. People like the Dilly meme team. I mean, my son has brought me messages laughing that are from the Dilly meme team, and he's not he's a kid, and
my son just sent me one this morning. My son just sent me, he's 15.
Yeah, he's 15. My son's going to be 15. He's a gamer. I mean, he's a lot of things. Yeah. He's a musician. He's a lot of things, but he does still like his games. They all are like new Trump conservatives, and they all think it's like cool to be a Republican again. And they've all been mocking Biden and laughing, and they're like, this really isn't this bad, right? Well, this morning, my son was like, it is this bad. You were right. Like, these memes aren't joking. I mean, I saw it, but now I really see it. Like, this guy is the president. This is not okay. This is not cool. So they were already kind of laughing, and it was working. But then there was always these voices in the media saying that's a lie and blah, 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 and trying to downplay it. That's the damage that this debate has done. It's that everyone was, and that's why Chris Wallace was halfway crying last night. And he said, Joe Biden agreed to this. This is early in the process. He needed to change the trajectory, and he did. He killed his campaign, right? Because he knows this is something people were going to tune into. And if they couldn't, they're going to see the clips. Now there's no way at this point to hide it anymore, Sean. It's done. And there are even Democrats, like you played it on your show. We just played the clip before. Joe Scarborough after the State of the Union. You and I had a segment about it, right? This is the sharpest he's ever been. Now he's over there abusing his wife live on air, I'm telling you, get the very distinct red rum vibe from this guy, And Adam Kinzinger, our buddy, who we just mauled on Wednesday, all right, on during your show, has called for Joe Biden to step down. You just played a video on your show when we did our segment of Adam Kinzinger.
Adam Kinzinger asked him to step down.
He's rescinding his endorsement. He said,
"Are you kidding me? He rescinded."
It's in the Washington Examiner, Byron York, right now. I'm not kidding. Go look at Byron York's Twitter feed.
I had no idea.
Unbelievable. It's been 72 hours. And it went from that to now to here. So. That's the damage. The damage is the contrast between them 72 hours ago with the now there, and then everything they told everybody. They're hurt. And I think Joe Biden is irreparably damaged by this, but
this talk of, we're going to replace Biden or this,
brother.
Listen,
good luck.
What people let me just see if I can just run down this process.
Yeah, thank you. You ran for office. Can you please explain to people even just the office you ran for, how difficult it would be to swap a candidate at this point?
It's just legally. We're not even talking legally. I'm not even talking. I don't even want to talk about. Well, let's just talk about the Democrat rules, right?
Right.
If they cleared the great irony of this is that the fact that they rigged their own elections is going to come back to bite them in the ass in a huge way, because if you're in a Democrat primary, running in a Democrat primary state, and you get over 15% of the vote, those delegates are bound to you, which means at the convention, if you get 15% or more of the vote as a Democrat primary candidate in the first round of voting, those voters have to, in accordance with Democrat bylaws, they've got to vote for you.
Yep.
Here's the thing. The Democrats rigged the primary for Biden. So he has all the delegates. Biden appointed the DNC chair. Biden appointed the DNC co-chair. The DNC is stacked with Biden loyalists. And so there is no mechanism with which to remove this guy. And by the way, he thinks he's doing a bang-up job. Jill thinks he's doing a bang-up job. He still wields enormous power of the presidency. So everyone's going to tiptoe around him when they try to, no one's going to really be able to truly push the envelope. And so the only way, Biden voluntarily steps aside. That's why people are trying to push him to do it. But at that point, all he could do is call on his delegates to vote for whoever his chosen candidate is. But there's no guarantee that they will. And you could end up with an absolute shit show, a cannibalistic, power-hungry Democrat shit show of a brokered convention when they have their convention of people just trying to clamor for power very, very late in the game. So it's just, and I didn't even touch on all the FEC regulations, fundraising regulations, the fact that in Nevada and in Georgia and in Wisconsin, it's almost damn near impossible to take his name off the ballot and replace him with somebody else. The Democrats are in deep, deep trouble. To me, unless something and I always caveat everything I say with this, Democrats have an enormous amount of control, and they have done some pretty bold things in the past. But this isn't like an LBJ situation where it was March or April,
March
where he
31st.
Yeah,
March
it's late June. It's late June. It's late June, and so. And Biden, he ain't going anywhere. He's already said today that he's staying, and he's committed to a second debate. So Democrats they're stuck. They're stuck, Rich.
Well, which brings me to this, and I wanted to wait for you to say this because people are asking me like crazy, and I just had somebody tell, I don't know if you heard the beat. Do you still think it was a mistake from the debate? Yeah, I do. And because I think it was an unnecessary risk. And then there's a second part to this, all right, that I'm deeply, deeply concerned about. They're going to escalate this now. What if you just rattled off everything because there's all these pundits and people and they don't seem to understand the rules, the laws, and not to mention the optics, Sean, of two things. One, telling hundreds of millions of voters your vote did not count. We're going to override your vote now because we know better than you. If they do that, it will be an unmitigated disaster for turnout. You won't be able to fabricate and fill in enough votes to make up for that. And then what? You're going to leapfrog the first non-white, the first female vice president. Right. You're going to do that? I don't think you can.
Rich, can I mention something else that nobody's talked about? This is perhaps one of the most important points. Hunter Biden. He is still facing a ton of IRS cases in September.
I'm getting there. Yeah.
But Biden can pardon him for existing crimes, but there are still charges coming down the pike for this guy. And Hunter Biden, the last thing that Joe wants is for Hunter Biden to be in a hot seat of yet to be charged crimes where he's pointing the finger at Joe Biden and Joe Biden's not president anymore.
That's why I think that, because I try to explain this to people, the Bidens are not just fighting for their political future. They're fighting for their future, period. Their financial future, their future of their liberty. And I really think so if you're them right now, and they've already proven themselves to be fanatics who will do whatever it is they need to do to win an election or to hold power. Forget about winning an election. That's the wrong way to say it. They will do whatever they need to do to hold on to power, even whether it's legitimate or not. Winning an election legitimately or not enough. I can't stand it when people ding me like this on the show. It's like, you should know I'm on the show. Like, I'm going to block you if you don't stop texting me right now. All right. So, all right, you will not be able to call me. It's a donor too. It's a donor, which is like, I'm going to block you, man, forever. And then you're going to have to worry about where you're going to put your money without the people's pundits advice. All right. So stop texting me or I'm going to make you waste millions of your money. All right.
You're like a mafia guy.
I'll strong arm the shit out of you. I really will. Yeah. That's, bro. Listen, it's not that hard to find. That's kind of like how that's kind of the cloth I was cut from. So it's how I roll. So it's what I learned. But I'm a product of my environment as I grew up. No, anyway. This is what I worry about. So now, given all that and that they approved all that, Sean, they're gonna this dramatically increases the odds that this sentence is going to include jail time in my mind. This is what, and if they can't do that, if that doesn't work, I worry about the president's safety. I really do. I think they're going to take a shot at this guy.
That's why
take a shot at this guy, Sean. And I can't believe I'm saying that publicly. I've been thinking about this lately. Like, we're really here. But Sean, we are here. We've been here since 1962. This is the country has not been run by the voters since they decided it was okay to kill our president. And it's been a charade ever since. The only president other than Trump, because Reagan really didn't challenge the system. Let's be serious. The only one who really challenged the system was Nixon. And look at how he ended up. Then came along Trump. And look at what they're doing to him. And I really think because the difference is they got rid of Nixon. It was they won, they're not winning here. They're losing. Trump is beating them. He's winning. And they're going to try to put him in. I think Marshawn is a nutcase. He's going to get the phone calls. His daughter's going to get the phone calls. She's going to whisper, Daddy, you have to save us. You'll be a hero. So either he's getting an ankle bracelet or he's, potentially getting jail time. And then if that doesn't work, I really worry about him, man. I do. And then I worry about our country because they do that. That's it, brother. That's it.
Look, I have been saying on the show that
God, I hope not.
I do think that Marshawn will put him in jail. I don't think that that's off the table.
Yeah.
And the reason for that is that I have found myself at times, well, there's no way the judge is going to do this. Well, and there's no way the jury's going to find this. There's no way it's definitely going to be hung. And every step of the way, I was proven wrong by the sheer depth of their depravity.
Depravity. Yeah, that is the word.
And so if that has been the experience, then it also stands to reason that, yeah, they'll probably end up putting him in jail. So there's that. I've made this point on my show, though, and I don't know, your viewers, listeners might hate this, but I think that let me just talk this through with me. The moment that you see things for what they are in this country, you can't unseen them. You can't unsee those things.
Yeah.
Once the scales have been removed from your eyes,
yeah,
you see it. And what I'm talking about is that how the deep state operates. Yeah, they've existed not just, with Trump as president, but for a very long time, going all the way back to Nixon, at least JFK before him. They operate effectively when they have plausible deniability, when the vast majority of the country just says there's no way that could be true.
Yep.
But now we see, I honestly think after last night, and this is like part of the all-encompassing discussion of why this debate was so devastating for not just Biden, but for the deep state in general, is that so many people see that the Hunter Biden laptop, first of all, was
real.
Was not real, but also active duty CIA contractors, including active members of the CIA, were involved in signing that letter. Okay.
Brilliant moment by Trump. Brilliant moment.
Yes, that was a big deal. And now people have a sense that maybe their institutions, especially in the wake of 2020, especially in the wake of COVID, and now with the Hunter Biden laptop and this 2024 election cycle, that more people are seeing how things are for the first time in a long time. And so you add to that the fact that a lot of never Trumpers were part of the deep state that went all out to stop President Trump in 2020. For example, Bill Barr was one of those people.
Yeah.
In 2020, all the election and fraud in 2020, we had Tony Schaefer, who is a retired special operations lieutenant colonel.
For people, he's like a big deal. Let me just say, because I was in the Army at JFK Special Warfare Center, Tony's a big deal.
Yes,
he's not a big deal. And they make him out like he's some kook or something. He's a huge deal to 18 X-ray guys who are coming in who want that beret, bro. A big deal.
And he was on the ground in Pennsylvania talking to Bill Barr, and Bill Barr got him fired. And Tony had proof of all this fraud. He said Bill Barr told him, Tony actually had a group of U.S. Marshals on standby to investigate all of this fraud. Bill Barr told him, I had him on the show to talk about it. Told him, hey, you're not doing it. The FBI is going to do it. So basically what the FBI was a mop-up crew for all the election fraud committed in the 2020 election. And so here you have all these never Trumpers who are deep staters as well, that are Republicans, that I think they live in America. They don't want to see America collapse. They hate Trump. What they rely on is a steady state of these institutions being in a constant state of homeostasis. Anything that would upset the balance of the deep state or these institutions bothers them, and they want to protect these things at all costs. Well, now people like Bill Barr and all these never Trump Republicans, I think, see Biden as a greater institutional threat, as evidenced by all this lawfare. And I think that's why you had Bill Barr come out and say publicly, without Trump's prodding, that he's endorsing Trump because he thinks Biden is a bigger threat. I think that's a signal to every other never Trump Republican in the deep state that, hey, this is where we've got to go. So part of me wonders, I might be wrong here, but part of me wonders, these deep staters just assuming, hey, 4 years of President Trump, we survived him the first time. Biden's the bigger threat.
Yeah.
Let's just get a bunch of things in place where we can do nothing but thwart this guy's presidency, just like we did the first time. How much damage could this guy do? We controlled him the first time. So maybe my hope is, Rich, is that instead of taking the drastic step, what you're talking about, is that they just say, hey, we'll lay low and do everything we can to undermine him in office. I'm just putting myself in their shoes. I don't think that it's going to work. I think that Trump is going to be very efficient this go around.
Yeah.
I hope beyond hope that I'm right, because if I'm wrong, as you said, things are really going to hit the fan.
Yeah, that's going to be it, man. I mean, that's going to hit a boiling point. Like the Tim Pool hyperbolic stuff is going to come to fruition. That's going to happen. I mean, there has to be a moment, and it's just the way all nations work. There has to be a moment where like there's like a release valve, and you can like dial down the pressure. And the only way to do that is I mean, let's face it, at this point now, and I just looking at the polls, it's two of the most liberal polls in the country have Trump at or above 50%, so you're talking about half the country or more who support this man now, and you can't just ignore them. You can't. There has to be a release valve.
Yep.
And that's the way our country used to work. We back in college talked about the pendulum, which I actually thought was going to be a thesis, but it turned out not to be 100% the case. The case is meaning like there's a pendulum that swings back and forth between the parties, and that's the way American politics, some nature of a mechanism that makes it the nature of American politics. As it turned out, it wasn't really so much a pendulum as it was a release valve. And without that release valve, it's going to blow up. It's like just continuing to fill a balloon until the balloon pops. You cannot consistently deprive one side who represents at least half, if not more, of the country.
Exactly.
You cannot deprive them of their representation, of their ability to direct their government. Right. If you do, I mean, I don't know why they think we're going to defy the laws of like human civilization. Like this is the way it works. It doesn't matter if it's a democracy, a republic, whatever, an empire. There are still, factions within these societies that must be heard at some point. Otherwise, something happens. Something breaks down. And I'm telling you, they take this guy off the table, man. And that's going to be where we're at in this country. So I can pray to God that you're right. I really do. I pray to God that you're right. But I just think that we're dealing with fanatics here.
Well, let me ask you this: given the intense pressure that I think you're going to see unrelenting pressure on Biden to step aside. I think he has
I don't know how they're going to do that, though.
I think he has just as much to fear as Trump.
He does. And
I hate this, by the way. Yeah. This is not where America should be.
No, it's not.
Like this deep state, administrative state. If you watch my show, then there is no greater threat in the world to both to American citizens than an out of control administrative state. Thank God the Supreme Court,
did what they did today.
Yeah. When we got the victory on Chevron that we did, but It is getting out of control. I don't want to see this happen to anybody. It's a shame that we're even here. I'm glad that you talked about the whole concept of a release valve, because it's absolutely true. And it's happened in every society that's survived for a very, very long time. And I'm hoping that there's some sort of off-ramp now, because you can't just simply ignore the will of 75 plus million Americans, and that movement is likely far greater now, and expect there not to be consequences. And I hate having this conversation. I hate it. And guarantee you the FBI and the NSA is like listening in right now. We're not talking about violence. You and I abhor violence. We don't want violence. That's why we're talking about this stuff.
And they are, no doubt. And here's the deal. They shouldn't be. Your purview is not domestic politics, domestic threats. You're supposed to be looking across the pond, abroad. You're supposed to be looking away from us. We have police, we have local law enforcement. Unfortunately, we have federal law enforcement, which we shouldn't have, but we do. And that is it is not the role of the NSA or the CIA to be like rooting through our episodes and our emails and our text messages and whatnot. That is not their mission, and it's unconstitutional, and yet they do it. By the way, we gotta get this so people know. I got a clip. It's Fox reacting to the SCOTUS decision. You're going to have my favorite SCOTUS reporter comment on it, Shannon Bream. And notice what they call the J6ers at the start of the segment, because there's a sea change here. All right. I really do believe the last 48 hours, have been a page turner. We all know what they call the J6ers. Insurrectionists. It was an insurrection, right? Or if you're a Democrat, they're erectionists. They were erecting, right? I mean, what the hell's wrong with Democrats? They're obsessed with erections, male Democrats. All right, and you just don't get a word wrong like that repeatedly, bro. I mean, unless there's something going on there. Sigmund Freud would have a field day with Chuck Schumer and his buddies. He really would. Chucky, is there something you want to tell us, Chucky? Is there something you need to get off your chest? All right, but here's the segment from Fox News announcing this decision and the misinterpretation of the obstruction and all this, which is just not, it's not just huge for Trump. It is huge for Trump, but these people who have been persecuted, it's huge for them as well. And listen to Fox, how they changed their vocabulary already. You ready?
Mm-hmm. Some more breaking news, this time about the January 6th rioters. The Supreme Court.
Did you hear that, Sean? Rioters.
Court has just ruled. Let's get to Shannon Breen. What did they say?
So what they have said is that one of the statutes the Justice Department used to charge hundreds of different January 6 defendants is no good. And that includes President Donald Trump, because he has actually had 2 of these counts against him in the Jack Smith D.C. case against him, that federal criminal case that has been on hold here. So what essentially they say is this statute, which was passed in the wake of Enron, they say it doesn't fit here. He says, given that the subsection was enacted to address the Enron disaster, not some other far-flung set of dangers like what happened just right over here at the Capitol, it is unlikely that Congress responded with such an unfocused and grossly incommensurate patch in English that essentially means that all of these people who were charged under this particular obstruction statute for January 6th, that is no good. The dissent, this is a very interesting vote makeup, because the dissent is actually written by Justice Barrett, and she is joined by Justices Sotomayor and Kagan. She's
again, Amy Coney Barrett with this woman, bro. Robert Barnes and I were right. We said do not appoint the demographic who has a life experience, who is basically the source of all of our problems as a country. Instead, you should go with Pagoa in Florida, who is, what was her experience? The dangers of communism in Cuba. Which one would have been the more conservative judge that is built for the time that we're in? Amy Coney Barrett is not a conservative, not in the mold that people who vote for Republicans in the vast majority of territories in this country view to be a conservative. That is not that mold. They got to stop, and Trump better not, and mark my words, Sean, because I will get very, very serious if this happens. He better not listen to a single damn person from the Federalist Society when it comes to Supreme Court or even any federal bench appointees, nominees. That is not a conservative institution. It has never been. All their Chamber of Commerce conservatives, all they give a damn about is money. They don't care about any other freedoms. It's not even, we're not even talking about economic freedom. They're talking about economic advantage. They're talking about competitive advantages. They are not talking about freedoms as we see them. And this is what they gave him. You know, I mean, Gorsuch, he's a rock star. Kavanaugh and Barrett are a problem on multiple fronts, and here she is siding with the liberals in what is a no-brainer case, but that's who she is, you know. That's, I mean, what she's the female version too of like Justice Roberts. One of the weakest groups and demographics in this country is a Southern conservative man, and she's like the female equivalent of that, you know, only with the experience of like a Chief Justice Roberts. It's unbelievably stupid that I don't want to get into the talking heads that promoted her, but it's just unbelievable. Should have gone with somebody better for the time like Pagoa, but I digress. Here we go.
Says that Congress did intend for this kind of conduct to be brought under this particular obstruction charge. She thinks the majority got it wrong, but what it means is a big headache for the DOJ and good news for hundreds of January 6 defendants charged under this statute, again, including
Donald Trump. So there it is. Yeah, I mean, you know, it is what it is. React to that though, and then I'll let you run.
Yeah, Rich, what's striking, first of all, I completely agree with you. But if you look at the makeup of the Supreme Court, and again, you and I talked about this on my show, but the Supreme Court is made up of what looks to be, you know, you have the liberals, which are Jackson, Sotomayor, Kagan. And then you have conservatives and Thomas, Alito, and Gorsuch. And then you have institutionalists. Again, here we are talking about people who seem to go all in protecting the institutions, like Amy Coney Barrett, Brett Kavanaugh, and Thomas. And institutionalists are not conservatives. And I think that's what you're talking about. And what's amazing to me is that Justice Kavanaugh should know better. These radical leftists tried to use these institutions to destroy his entire life and character, his family. Like, he should know better. You would think that he would be a wrecking ball on that court just because of what he experienced at the hands of these radical leftist Democrats who use the power of government to bludgeon their opponents. And it's no holds bar, Rich. There are no rules. They will destroy your life and hang you out to dry and not give a damn what happens to you. And they did that to Kavanaugh. Now, thankfully, it all worked out for him, but he's in a position now where he can make a difference, and he's kind of not. He's kind of just going along to get along, and it sucks.
Institutionalist is the word, because of course this decision vacates the order from who? His former colleagues on the DC Court of Appeals. So, I mean, again, this freaking club, Sean, is going to kill us. This club mentality. Did I say Thomas? I meant Robert. So you have Roberts, Kavanaugh, and Amy Coney Barrett. They're the institutionalists. Okay. I just want to correct. Did you say Thomas? Did you?
I don't know.
I heard Roberts because I knew what you were talking about.
Okay, good.
Yeah, maybe I'm wrong, but I mean, it's like, the ears.
I don't want to mess that up.
It's amazing how the human brain fills in the gap, when you know what someone's meaning is. So I don't know. I'd have to go back and review it. But I got to tell you this before I let you roll. Tell people about, what you got going on tonight. But your episode, and if people didn't see it, your episode yesterday with Dean was hilarious. I mean, I was like pissing my pants, bro, rolling around. He's so funny. If you guys, if you guys haven't seen, do you do that weekly with him?
I'm trying to. Yes. I only have a couple people on.
Dean, Brian Wright. I always get it mixed up.
Brian Dean Wright, yeah.
Brian Dean Wright. Brian.
I only have the same, very small group of guests. Like, you are our most prominent guest every Wednesday, but I always try to bring people on the show who are just a hell of a lot smarter than me. So you and what, the show is laid back, and so there are the goal, right, Rich, is entertain first. Because there are almost no conservative shows that entertain. So I've got hysterical and super smart people like you, Brian Dean Wright, and today we've got Kash Patel coming on to react to all of this stuff from these Supreme Court bombshells. I hate that term, bombshells, but also
they're historic. This was historic. This is a historic decision.
And this debate stuff. And so these are people that I consider to be at the top of their game. Kash Patel is someone who just is insider, senior advisor to Donald Trump, and then has a ton of experience going toe-to-toe with the deep state. I think the best pollster in America. Brian Dean Wright, the former Democrat, former CIA guy that just understands foreign policy better than most other people. So that's really the whole point of the show, is just to have fun and go after the radical left who destroy our country. That's it.
He also understands the administrative state and was a lifelong Democrat before this, before this sea change, that happened. And he's first of all, folks, very entertaining to listen to, but also he's a smart guy, a really smart dude. And Sean's interview with him the other day, the entire show was great, but the interview with him the other day was just, it was epic. It was great. I mean, I haven't laughed that hard, looking at a show. And you're right, man. It's like we gotta listen to 2 hours of nasal policy through a nasal voice. I want to tell you something. We all know what I'm talking about. Emulating. No, but yeah, man, go check. It's 5 o'clock tonight, right? 5 o'clock.
Yeah, 5 o'clock tonight with Kash Patel. Yep.
Go check it out, guys. Don't miss it. Sean Parnell, and of course at Sean Parnell USA on Twitter, Truth, Getter, everywhere. But Battleground Live, 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Don't miss it. It'll be a good one with Cash. Thanks for coming on, bro. I'll let you roll. Thanks for coming on. Give the best, the crew over there, Commander Melanie and the kids, and I'll talk to you soon.
I will, my friend. Thanks to you and Savage Laura and Savage Winston and all your savage children. So
indeed they are, brother. I'll see you soon. All right.
See you, man. Take care, Rich.
Take care. That's Sean Parnell, ladies and gentlemen. And every Wednesday, if you don't see it, we do Savage Wednesdays. Brian Dean Wright. We've got backwards. Dean Brian Wright. It's Brian Dean Wright. Man, he's a smart guy. Really smart dude. That interview, if you didn't see it yesterday, go check it out, because I'm like, doing things, working. I popped it on and I'm like, oh yeah, that's right. He's got Brian on today. I want to hear that. I was dying. Just hilarious. And really prescient, apparently, because they were, of course, bringing up the debate, foreshadowing what might happen. And there was a lot of joking going on, but I think it was worse than even the joking insinuated it would be. Sean brought up, and it reminded me, I blazed through it. Sean brought up a clip. Not even a clip. He brought up the difference, the contrast between Biden today. And like I've said, Biden's never been a nice guy, and he's never been a smart guy. But there's certainly an argument that you can make that in certain ways, Biden could be, you wouldn't want him as president, but man, he was a good sidekick to Joe Biden politically. And he could speak to people on Main Street in a certain way. I don't think anyone could deny that, right? Even though, of course, he's full of crap. But that's not the point. And then the Biden we're seeing today is very different. I'm going to play this clip from CNN that was a reaction, and then I'm going to play another one because I think it's important that, what they're saying here. Here we go.
6 days of preparation at Camp David.
More than that.
And they know the rules.
It was more than a week.
Okay, so more than a week. They know the rules. He practices with the mics. He knows every one of these questions is coming. And yet he couldn't fill the time. Now, I just want to, let's see what the White House is saying. Sources close to the White House are saying he had a cold, wasn't feeling well. I mean, as you would expect, that came out early on in the debate. But what accounts for someone with so much experience doing so much preparation and this being the outcome?
Honestly, I think the question answers itself. He wasn't capable of doing any better than he did.
Wow. But yes, the White House, if I didn't mention that earlier, is trying to say that he had a cold, blah, blah, blah. Look, he's been preparing for 2 weeks almost, the better part of a week and a half. And Jake Tapper had to repeatedly tell him that he still had time left. Somebody put up a meme immediately, and this was one my son brought me from, one was a Game of Thrones. The other one is Lord of the Rings, when they're sitting there with the king of, I'm not a huge buff about this stuff, but I can't remember the kingdom, but the king is under a spell. He's gone. His mind is gone. And there's that evil advisor whispering in his ear, counselor whispering in his ear. And they made this meme that's Jake Tapper, right? Sir, you still have time, fill your time, say this, right? And it's funny, but it's really not. But it is. We got to joke about it on some level. He repeatedly had to do that. And it's such a different man than the man and the rest of the content. She goes on to say, I think what the big problem here tonight is that Americans saw a Biden that they didn't recognize, and Americans saw a Trump that they did. And I would argue that's not true. They saw a Biden that they didn't recognize because the Biden they were told about is a lie. And then they saw a Trump that was different. He was measured. And by the way, Sean brought that up when he first came on, and I didn't say it, and I meant to say it. That's Chris and Susie. I got to tell you, I'm telling you, they're running that campaign like it's a tight ship. It is not. It's much more disciplined. And it's a closer knit circle. And of course, I'm talking about Chris LaCivita and Susie Wiles. They are running that campaign. Excellent. It's excellent. I don't know how else to say it. It is not and it's kind of funny in 16, especially during the primary, you had the Corey Lewandowski, let Trump be Trump, right? And then he would go off and fly off on the handle. And then they brought in Paul Manafort, who was supposed to take the reins and make things a little bit more disciplined. The truth is they brought in Paul Manafort because the Republican Party was trying to rob him of the nomination. And Paul Manafort was one of only 2 human beings on planet Earth who was still alive, beating heart, and who had experience with a delegate fight on the floor of a convention. That's why they brought in Manafort. So ironically, there never would have been an easy nexus with the Russia hoax if The Republican Party didn't try to rob you of the voter of the nominee you wanted, but because they were, that's how there was even a nexus drawn, even though it was weak as it was, because it's BS with Manafort as well. But anyway, I digress. What she said, though, there's half truth. There's half truth there. There is. And that's part of why this debate was so devastating for not only Joe Biden, but for them. Because what the country saw was the curtain came down, man. The great and powerful Oz, fake as hell, right there for all to see. And, you know, whatever analogy you want to use. The emperor had no clothes, right? The Oz, the all-powerful Oz. And this is the Joe Biden that they do. Remember, so if there's no doubt anymore, but I'm just saying before we go here, because we have to go, I want to remind you of the Joe Biden that America is used to seeing, whether they liked him or they didn't. And by the way, even back then, I'm going to play this clip, even back then, he was still measured by the electorate and found to be unworthy of the presidency. Now, he could be a sidekick. And Obama picked Joe Biden, for those of you who don't know, he picked Joe Biden to put white people at ease. He did. He picked Joe Biden to say, look, here's an old white guy. You can trust the young black man who is being accused of being a radical. I'm picking a very establishment white Democrat who has been around forever. I'm not going to destroy the system. I'm not going to come in here and destroy the system. It was kind of like an unconscious nod that, like, yeah, I'm telling you I want hope and change, but I'm really not going to change much. So don't hope that hard, you know? Anyway, this is the Biden, that Biden. All right, here it is.
Polls is cut the mortgage deduction for middle-class people, cut the health care deduction, middle-class people, take away their ability to get a tax break to send their kids to college. That's why they arrive.
Is he wrong about that?
He is wrong about that. You can cut tax rates by 20% and still preserve these important preferences for middle-class taxpayers.
Not mathematically possible.
It is mathematically possible.
He can't even say the word mathematically today. He couldn't even tell the difference between measured units, between millions, thousands, billions. Look at how different. Look at how different he is. He mopped the floor with Paul Ryan, folks. Paul Ryan's young. He's in supposedly his prime. He's a super intelligent guy. He's a wonk, right? He's in the mold of Jack Kemp. Blah, 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 blah. Joe Biden got up there and kicked his ass. Look at how he's smiling. And it's not a smirk like a smart ass smirk. It's a smile. He's delivering it. This was the working class Joe against Paul Ryan, who is a tax cutter for the billionaires, a tax cutter for big business, a tax cutter for Wall Street. He effectively, successfully made that contrast. And he beat Paul Ryan all over. It's not even a stage. He's sitting at a table. He beat him like a drum.
It's been done before. It's precisely what we're proposing.
It has never been done before.
It's been done a couple of times.
It has never been
Jack
done
Kennedy
before.
lowered tax rates, increased growth. Ronald Reagan.
Now you're Jack Kennedy.
Ronald Reagan. Republicans and Democrats have worked together on this. I understand you guys aren't used to doing bipartisan deals.
But we've told each other what we're going to do. When we did it with Reagan, he said, here are the things we're going to cut.
Framework. Let's work together to fill in the details. That's exactly, that's how you get things done. You work with Congress. Look, let me say it this way.
That's coming from the Republican Congress working bipartisanly.
Mitt Romney.
7% rating.
Mitt Romney.
We immediately went out and rescued General Motors. We went ahead and made sure that we cut taxes for the middle class. And in addition to that, when that occurred, what did Romney do? Romney said, no, let Detroit go bankrupt. We moved.
But man, I got to stop there because look at how times have changed. Now he's the president and he's going to bankrupt Detroit. He wants these this electric vehicle scam, the batteries made in China. And by the way, the bloodbath hoax he brought up last night again. I think that was the one moment that Trump dropped the ball. He should have said that's another hoax. I see you're trotting out all these hoaxes. What I was talking about, obviously, is that it's going to be a bloodbath for Detroit and the automobile industry at at large. The U.S. auto manufacturing is going to experience a bloodbath if you're reelected and you get your New Deal scam, which he did say, which was brilliant, but he dropped the ball on that. He could have done better. But listen to how things have changed. Joe, whether it's right or wrong, and I would argue that Paul Ryan was right largely on the policy, although I think him and Romney were full of shit and that they would not have prioritized the working class. He didn't even try to prioritize the working class when Donald Trump was negotiating the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act. If it wasn't for Donald Trump, then the corporations would have gotten the better end of the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act. It was Trump who was demanding that 85% was included. He didn't give a rat's ass about them. He just argued if you lower the corporate tax rate, they're going to get higher wages, which is actually true. It is. If you lower them and you keep them in the Goldilocks zone, and we have more than a half a century on data from the economic first world, from the OECD and other, even their left-wing organizations, the World Bank, the Paris-based OECD. And it's very clear. If you stay within the Goldilocks zone where you don't go too low where tax revenues fall and you don't go too high where they fall because of a different reason, there are people engaging in avoidance. If you cut the corporate tax rate within a certain framework, within that Goldilocks zone, they will raise wages for workers. And it's a natural thing. It's a natural result of it. And that's true. But Paul Ryan, he didn't prioritize all of the extra things to make sure that the middle class did not get the burden of those tax breaks. That was all Trump. And yet, 12 years ago, Joe Biden is the working class hero in this conversation. Again, right or wrong, he is the working class hero, and that's what it looks like. That's what it sounds like. He looks like that guy. Paul Ryan looks like someone Wall Street groomed to make sure they get a competitive advantage. They get the breaks. It's a revolving door between them, Capitol Hill, right? They have their K Street guys going in and out. And Joe is the one arguing on behalf of General Motors. He's arguing on behalf of Detroit, and he's doing it well. That Joe Biden's gone. Let's see the rest of it before we got to go. What do we got, a minute here? All right.
Moved in and helped people refinance their homes. Governor Romney said no, let foreclosures hit the bottom. But it shouldn't be surprising for a guy who says 47% of the American people are unwilling to take responsibility for their own lives. My friend recently in a speech in Washington said 30% of the American people are takers. These people are my mom and dad, the people I grew up with, my neighbors. They pay more effective tax than Governor Romney pays in his federal income tax. They are elderly people who, in fact, are living off of Social Security. There are veterans and people fighting in Afghanistan right now who are, quote, not paying any taxes. I've had it up to here with this notion that 47%, it's about time they take some responsibility here. They should be signing a pledge saying to the middle class, we're going to level the playing field. We're going to give you a fair shot again. We are going to not repeat the mistakes we made in the past by having a different set of rules for Wall Street and Main Street.
Wow. Right? Wow. I mean, folks, that's a Trump speech. Now, I'm not saying he was being genuine, but not only was it a Trump speech, it was delivered. He articulated it well. It was delivered extremely well. And Paul Ryan was just there for the ride. That is not the Joe Biden you saw last night. And with that in mind, I'm going to say goodbye here. I'm going to roll a video. And if I was the Trump campaign, I would have done just this. And think about how fast they did it. They were ready. They cut it. They put it together and they shipped it out. Very different Trump campaign this time around for the better. Very different Biden campaign. Biden this time around for the worse. And again, with that, I'll eat my slice of humble pie. If you like the videos, don't forget to like them. I'll figure out what in the Sam hell is going on with locals. But like the video, share them far and wide, smash the like button, of course, subscribe. And if you're watching on YouTube, it would be great and much appreciated if you would mosey on over to Rumble and subscribe there and like there as well, vice versa all around. It is immensely helpful for us, for the algorithms, and also for the advertisers, sponsors to the program that make this thing go. Peoplespundit.locals.com is, of course, the best place to follow us. The public polling project link is in the description. We're going to put it together this weekend. Well, by the time we get out in the field, it's going to be, I think, enough a good time to have people digest everything that they have seen and heard over the last month since our last poll, and we'll get some brand new numbers. And I'm frankly stoked about it, and we'll see where it goes from here. All right. So anything else I'm missing here? I'll be on with Dr. Steve Turley really soon. Just keep an eye on locals, keep an eye on social media, and I'll post them out there. I'll be on Charlie Kirk soon as well. I just don't have those times yet. I don't have it. Like Laura's over there booking stuff like crazy. So just keep an eye on it. And on locals is posting. I don't know why it's not going live, but it's posting. And you'll get those times, and don't forget to catch them if you can, or watch the repeats. All right, I'm going to leave you with this video. It was one hell of a ride this week, folks. One hell of a ride. Thanks for watching Inside the Numbers with the People's Pundit. Have a good, safe weekend and book club. I will see you on Sunday. See you later, guys.
Both making sure that we're able to make every single solitary person eligible for what I've been able to do with the COVID. With dealing with everything we have to do with. Look, if we finally beat Medicare, we're trying to provide housing for Black Americans. The impact on the choice, the idea that they're gonna. I'm proposing that everybody the millionaires pay 1%. So no one I would not raise the cost of Social Security for anybody. I got my handicap, which when I was vice president, down to a 6. And wants to get rid of the ability of Medicare for us to be able to negotiate drug prices with the big pharma companies. What I'm going to do is fix the tax system. For example, we have 1,000 trillionaires in America. Billionaires in America. No one was hurt. No one Israeli was accidentally killed, and it stopped. And I'm going to continue to move until we get the total ban on the total initiative relative to what we're going to do with more border patrol and more asylum officers.